What do you think the status of crime is at this point in Chicago? And what could the introduction of some federal presence do?
Look, trends are positive. Crime trends are going down. It's good news.
Meanwhile, in Chicago, everybody got to get down. Everybody got to get down because they shoot. Everybody down. Look, these kids are running. They shooting. We can't have no fun in Chicago, man. No fun, man. This is terrible. I ought to throw a goddamn flag. Cause this y'all neighborhood. This might be over with, but I gotta figure this out.
All right, family. So you guys see it. You guys heard it. Over a single holiday weekend, family. The city of Chicago is up in flames. Gave us a grim look into an American crisis because the sounds of celebration were drowned out by nonstop wail of sirens that you guys heard in the soundtrack to a wave of violence that tore through its neighborhoods. In just a few days, the city's emergency rooms were overflowing with the wounded, and its morgues became the final stop for the dead. And the official count was staggering, a brutal math of pain. Over 50 people shot, family. 8 of them killed in dozens of separate shootings. And this is the reality Democrats tell you isn't happening. And this explosion of violence didn't just leave scars on the street. It exposed the sheer panic of the city's Democratic leadership. And the bloodshed became the flashpoint for an impending crackdown on both crime and illegal immigration. And as President Donald Trump says, threatens to deploy federal forces in the National Guard to solve the crime problem fast, as a chorus of protest rises from the city itself. And Democratic leaders from the mayor's office to the governor's mansion are drawing the line in the sand, panicking over the coming crackdown. But while politicians protest and virtue signal, the people of Chicago are caught in a crossfire of a city that has become unfortunately, a lawless hellhole. But check this out.
Chicago's very own WGN Midday News.
Dozens of shootings in Chicago this Labor Day weekend. The latest left a 17-year-old critically injured. Good morning, I'm Ben Bradley in for Patrick Elwood.
And I'm Dana Rebick in for Dina Bair. Thanks for joining us. Judy Wang is live now at police headquarters with the latest. Judy.
At least 3 weekend shootings were incidents with multiple victims. That includes a shooting that occurred early this morning in a Southside Park where 5 people were shot. Among those victims, a 17-year-old who suffered critical injuries. This brings the total number of shooting victims so far this weekend to 50.
Sheesh.
After sunrise, the cleanup was underway in Ellis Park. Social media posts indicated a gathering advertised as a reunion was taking place.
I came on my balcony and I saw a whole lot of people downstairs in front of my building on the side, and then I saw the police had blocked off the streets.
This woman and other neighbors told us the party started Sunday night and the crowd continued to grow.
Oh, it was chaotic. It was like their cars couldn't go through because they were all in the streets and they were just walking around. It was a lot of people out here. It was a lot.
Officers were already in the area when they heard gunfire just after 1 a.m. They found the 5 victims near 36th and Cottage Grove. The teen boy had been shot several times. Police seized 4 guns and took in someone for questioning. 7 people were shot about a mile away in Bronzeville late Saturday. Police say a car with several people in it approached a group near 35th and State. At least 1 person in the vehicle opened fire. 4 people were wounded in a Humboldt Park drive-by early Sunday. Police say the shots came from 2 cars at Haddon and California. Crime scene techs found nearly 70 shell casings. Back at the Ellis Park scene, just steps from the University of Chicago Charter School, residents said it appeared most of those attending the party were not from the neighborhood.
I hope the gathering is okay, but no, I didn't know anyone got shot. Yeah. But it's sad. It's sad. Be praying for them.
There is still no word of any charges filed in connection with the Ellis Park shooting. Of the 50 people who have been shot so far this weekend, 8 of those victims were killed, and that is since Friday evening. Outside.
Wow, man. And the numbers are just chilling because between Friday evening and Monday night, while most of us marked the end of summer, Chicago was counting casualties. At least 58 people were shot in 37 separate incidents. 8 families started planning funerals instead of enjoying the holiday barbecue. And this wasn't just a bad weekend, it was an eruption of violence, and it makes a complete mockery of the Democrats claim that Chicago is safe. And this isn't a story about statistics. It's about a 70-year-old boy left in critical condition. It's about men and women in their 20s and 30s cut down in a prime. And it's about a city plunged into a debate for its own soul. And as some leaders call for a crackdown, others protest, fearing that the federal help that could stop the bleeding would create fear and anxiety. And this is a story of a city at war with itself, fighting on two fronts. One against a relentless tide of gun violence, and the other against political leaders who refuse the help that could stop it. So now I want to show you guys this second clip in regards to the matter. Check it out.
We want to take you now back out to Chicago, where demonstrators are rallying in part against President Trump's threats to send in the National Guard and expand ICE operations in that city. The mayor speaking just moments ago.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago.
Reiterating the message we have heard from him, and already Chicago Public Schools have sent a letter to parents acknowledging that federal presence could create fear and anxiety around school safety. Joining me now, Stacey Davis Gates, the president of the Chicago Teachers Union. She was one of the speakers today. You can see she's surrounded there by protesters. And Stacey, first of all, thanks for being with us. The mayor's office expects some federal operations to begin as early as Friday. How do you think that this will actually directly impact students, teachers, families in your city?
Well, it's already impacting us. In 2019, we bargained in our contract sanctuary protections because when this guy was in the White House the first time, he scared people. He intimidated people. We've seen the tyranny of his troops in L.A. We've seen the unconstitutional practices of his troops in D.C. What we want to do here in Chicago is protect our young people, make sure our families know that when they drop their children off, that we have them. And so we bargained that in our contract. We work with community groups and families to make sure that we are taking care of people. This time we've expanded that to add constitutional practices because like in DC, they've anchored themselves in black communities. And we want our black students to know and their families that they have just as much sanctuary in this city as our undocumented residents.
So ICE is not permitted to operate in non-public areas.
You heard that, right? I'm going to replay it because I know you didn't miss it.
As our undocumented residents.
So
they have just as much sanctuary in this city as our undocumented residents.
They have just as much sanctuary in our city as our undocumented residents. So the simple fact is, you are basically saying that this is the most anti-American thing ever, because you're basically saying that you don't want to protect kids to be able to go to school safely and being able to be in school safely without worrying about gun violence breaking out around the school while they're present. These are individual kids, parents, children that are trusting for their kids to get to school safely and thrive academically and go home safely. And all Donald Trump is saying, look, I want to help you guys because obviously y'all can't do it on your own, because if y'all was protecting so much of what y'all say y'all protecting in regards of making everyone feel safe and all of these things, then why is gun violence so busy breaking out within the communities? If you guys are so better off, then why is it 50 people getting shot? And the simple fact is, why would you not want safety throughout the streets so individuals can actually enjoy the city? So is this tied in, if you heard what she said, also are undocumented individuals Well, this is all about your undocumented individuals. You don't really care about the safety as long as you're shielding undocumented individuals because that's what it sounds like to me. And it just how can you sit there and stare and look at this lady, man? Look at this lady with a straight face and say she is sitting there standing up because all the fancy word for sanctuary city is human rights, they like to call it. But human rights is disguised as fighting for those who are undocumented, who have no respect to the country, let alone your city, because they came in here the wrong way and didn't go through the legal process. So now you are basically advocating for individuals not to go through the legal process and being a legal citizen and not abide by law and order. So how are you protecting your citizens, let alone Chicagoans, if you are advocating for individuals who are not following the law? But let's continue.
So ICE is not permitted to operate in non-public areas of schools like classrooms, but that's with a judicial warrant. But they could show up possibly in the lobby of a school. What specific assurances are you giving to students and to families? What advice are you giving them?
That these people have to follow the law, that our mayor in this city is going to defend and protect and resist, that our teachers, our paraprofessionals, and our clinicians are a safe space, and that they're going to continue to offer that safe space. They'll see us when the day starts, getting children out to school and walking them home, or walking them inside, and they'll see us after school, taking our children home and making sure that they reach there safely. We love our children in this city, and instead of spending $1 million a day, he can help us with safe passage. He can.
Well, that's hypocritical because you spend $1 million a day fighting and helping fight against, you know, you spent instead of putting it and pouring it into your cities, your citizens, you poured it into immigrants. And that's why your city is in the brink of going bankrupt. And the ones who are illegal, the individuals within the city, Chicagoans, are paying the price and the cost of you guys' actions with property taxes and everything rising and going up. So it's mind blowing to me how you can say, oh, don't instead of spending millions a day, he can help invest in the city, but you don't even know how to manage money yourself to invest in people, invest in your city, let alone get your city together to make sure it's safe for citizens. And then you wonder why, because this is basically them using immigrants as a prop to basically funnel money and do what they want to do with it in a corrupt way, where it's not actually being allocated the right way for the best interest of the American citizens, let alone Chicagoans and legal migrants. Legal, right? So to get the full picture of this Labor Day weekend tragedy that I showed you in the first video and first two clips, you have to look at the details that prove the city is not as safe as the Democrats would like for you to believe. And this wasn't one event, but a cascade of gunfire that spread from the south side to the west side, turning public spaces into shooting galleries. And you have to ask yourself, what is Trump getting out of this? Nothing. He is just helping, and you won't have to worry about ICE being there because ICE ain't gonna snatch them out of classrooms, but you won't have to be ICE. You had to worry about ICE lurking around the school if you cooperate by getting the criminals out of the city to protect kids and children that you say you prioritize in this clip that she said. So it's hypocritical. And the gun violence archive says a mass shooting is any incident where 4 or more people are shot. By that definition, Chicago had several over the holiday weekend, but a brutal connection of violence that stunned the city. And these multi-victim shootings drove the weekend's chaos. And take what happened late Saturday in the Bronzeville neighborhood. Because around 11:10 p.m., right behind the Chicago Public Safety Headquarters, a crowd had gathered. A vehicle pulled up and a shooter opened fire into the group. 7 people were wounded. The fact that this happened right next to police headquarters was a chilling message. No part of the city is safe under this leadership. And just 24 hours later, it happened again only a mile away. Early Monday morning, which is Labor Day, another mass shooting erupted. This time, 5 people were hit. Police found 4 different guns at the scene, proof of the sheer firepower unleashed in a residential neighborhood. But it wasn't just Bronzeville, right? You got Humboldt Park, a drive-by on Sunday, wounded 4 people. And you could go on and on and on. So behind and then you look at this thing because each incident added another layer to the city's grief. The holiday weekend was a brutal reminder that the city's gun violence problem isn't an isolated crime issue, but a public health crisis spiraling out of control because of failed democratic policies. Behind every one of those statistics is a story. And for every story, there are city leaders who are actively protesting. As you guys see, they're protesting that the help that could prevent the next one. And the real cost isn't measured in shell casings, but in stolen futures and the constant fear created by politicians who put their hatred of Trump above the safety of their constituents. I don't care. Forget Trump for a minute. Remove Trump. I don't care if you Democrat. I don't care if you Republican. This is humanity. These are lives being taken. So if you think about that 17-year-old girl sitting in her own room when a bullet tears through the wall and finds her, she becomes just another victim on a list and her sense of security gone forever. These people really do not care, family. They don't care. They're feeding the morgues. They're protesting for more funerals. Like, how do you protect the humanity of every single person in Chicago when people are getting shot and killed left and right? You would think that having some help with cracking down on crime is how you would save people's humanity. But in the minds of these leaders, if Chicago is not allowed to be a lawless hellhole, that is an attack on humanity. It's completely backwards, man. It's completely backwards. I'm not gonna curse. But and what about the first responders? Because the paramedics and the cops who run into these horrific scenes, they see the victim, hear the screams, and carry that trauma with them, all while their own mayor is telling the police department not to cooperate with federal officials. The poison of chronic violence kills trust and hope, and it creates an environment where violence seems normal. And the voices from these communities are a chorus of pain, frustration, and desperation. They're asking for safety now. And the gunfire over Labor Day weekend was a spark that lit the political power keg. Because on one side, you have President Donald Trump. He saw the weekend's numbers and called it like it is, painting a picture of a city in chaos, a hellhole. And he went after Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who you heard protesting, personally calling them incompetent and vowing to intervene and basically saying, I will solve the crime problem fast, he declared, and we're going in. And then you got on the other side, the city and state leadership who began to panic at a Labor Day march instead of working. Mayor Johnson led chants of no federal troops in Chicago. It's fascinating that while people are dying, Democrats are taking a holiday to protest Trump. What a complete and total waste of time. And Governor Pritzker was just as forceful, complaining that the federal government isn't coordinating with local law enforcement. And the irony is staggering because the whole reason a federal crackdown is needed is because Chicago's sanctuary city status, a policy Governor J.B. Pritzker supports, which forbids local law enforcement from working with federal law enforcement like ICE, and he's blaming Trump for a problem created by his own policies. So to fight back, the mayor's office will tell you with a straight face that crime is down, and they point to data showing homicides and shootings have dropped compared to last year. But after a weekend with over 50 people shot, these claims are insulting. It may be a great strategy for Pritzker to win a Democratic primary, but in a general election, voters will remember that when he had a chance to be tough on crime and illegal immigration, he chose to stand against it. Now, I want to show you guys another clip in regards to the matter. Check it out.
I want to start with you on what Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said yesterday in his latest back and forth over the president's plans. Let's listen.
It's clear that in secret, they're planning this. Well, it's an invasion with U.S. troops if they, in fact, do that. The other thing is, they ought to be coordinating with local law enforcement, but they don't want to do that either. And I must say it's disruptive. It's dangerous. It tends to inflame passions on the ground when they don't let us know what their plans are and when we can't coordinate with them.
His use of the word invasion, is that how you see it?
Invasion, no. Look, I don't like these National Guard deployments. I think that they should come with an invitation from the governor, as is historically the case. In the case of DC, it's a little more complicated because it's within the president's power to do it here. But what's going on in Chicago is very bad in terms of crime. It's not a crisis, and I think that the problem is it's one of these sort of Baptist and bootlegger problems where you have this is great for Pritzker politically, and it's great for Trump politically to argue about crime, to argue about invasion, and all these kinds of things. I just don't think it's a wise public policy.
You were smirking when you were listening to him.
Well, look, surging federal agents, ICE, CPB, to a state that has over 500,000 illegal immigrants in it, many of them live in Chicago. I mean, the federal government is going to enforce federal law. I hear Pritzker complaining that there's no coordination, but I also heard the mayor say he's ordered the police department not to cooperate with federal
Bingo.
officials on this immigration crackdown. So how are you supposed to cooperate if the mayor is ordering his own police force not to do so?
Duh. Can't make this up, family. You have to listen how these politicians talk. The ones who are not truthful and not backing up what they say, listen to what they do, not what they say. But watching their actions definitely will put their foot in their own mouth.
Fact is, you have people in this country illegally. The president has promised since he was running his campaign last year that he planned to crack down on illegal immigration. He's sending federal agents to Illinois to do that. I'm not entirely certain why everybody is so angry or surprised about this. I mean, we're here enforcing federal immigration law in a city that we can argue about whether it's a crisis or not, but there were 53 shootings there over the weekend. It's pretty violent.
We should also be clear. They were talking about sending the National Guard in long before they were talking about this ICE operation. These two things have now become merged.
He's saying they're on standby.
About to say this. What is it? What is happening here in Chicago? First, it's about crime, if you listen to Trump. Now, apparently, it's about immigration enforcement. I mean, when you are talking about, no wonder people are confused, no wonder people are alarmed, because if it is not clear what the purpose of these kinds of operations are, people are going to assume the worst. I mean, here in D.C., apparently it's about crime, except most of what we've seen has been immigration enforcement. Now you're going to move to a U.S. city, Chicago, where apparently it is about immigration enforcement if it's the president, but it's not. It's about crime. Like, what are we talking about?
Aren't
it
they
makes
one and
no
the same?
sense.
If you're in the country illegally, you're a
people.
criminal.
No, that's not the same thing. And
Why?
That's,
it's a civil offense if you cross the border illegally.
Oh my gosh!
No, but wait a second. You are trying to make.
If you're here breaking U.S. immigration law, why should
you are trying to make. You are trying to say that anyone in this country illegally is some kind of murder or killer. Crime is a different thing. Shootings, muggings, the things the president talks about are different than immigration enforcement.
All right, let me break it down for you because she's rambling all over the place. The threat of deploying federal forces and National Guard is the core of this conflict, all right? And for frustrated citizens, it's a sign of hope. The Illinois Freedom Caucus argues it's time for Pritzker and Brandon Johnson to stop pretending and welcome federal assistance. And as one lawmaker said, if the Easter Bunny could fix this, he'll welcome him. It highlights a powerful feeling. The crisis is so bad, any real help should be on the table. But the opposition is rooted in far left activism because protesters chant no federal troops, but what they really are vouching for is to obstruct ICE from doing their jobs and deporting illegals. And they claim federal forces will create fear and anxiety. Not the criminals, not the thugs, not the illegals, but federal law enforcement. And again, completely butt backwards because they hide behind the Posey Commanders Act, right? A law limiting military use and domestic law enforcement to justify their obstruction. Basically, this act is what forbids law enforcement in Chicago to work with ICE. And the Chicago Teachers Union, which will tell you with a straight face that this isn't political and is right there with them pushing a far left agenda. And the trap Democrats are walking into is that when the ICE crackdown happens, they're going to make the same mistake as the individuals in Los Angeles and start attacking federal agents. And that will give Trump the legal justification he needs to then bring in the National Guard. And it's exactly what will end up happening if they lose their minds over this ICE operation. And while politicians protest, they'll offer you flimsy excuses instead of solutions. They'll talk about community-based violence interruption or investing in root causes. But for families dodging bullets, these long-term talking points offer zero comfort for the immediate danger they face every night. And the real issue is the connection between crime and illegal immigration. And when you talk about people coming into the country illegally, that is a crime. It's trespassing. If you get convicted of trespassing on private property, you are a criminal. And it's the same thing when you trespass the United States of America. Democrats can try to play word games, but there is no difference. It's all the same. Surging federal agents from ICE and to a state. Let me see. Surging federal agents in ICE and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection it to a state with over 500,000 illegal immigrants is just the enforcement of federal law. A lot of these illegals are contributing to the crime crisis. So whether you call it an immigration crackdown or crime crackdown, it's going to help. And deporting illegals and dealing with domestic agents of chaos will bring down overall crime. And that is exactly what Democrats are standing against. As their cities are clearly struggling, they tell you it's a right-wing conspiracy that they don't need any help, right? They would rather just let their people die. And the path forward for Chicago is anything but clear. But on one side, there is a desperate cry for order, with many believing only a show of force can stop the killing. And on the other, there's a powerful resistance from Democrats who seem to hate Trump more than they love their own constituents. And so, what do you think is the right path? Is a federal crackdown on crime and illegal immigration that necessary step to restore safety, or are Democrats right to protest the help and let their city struggle? Are we supposed to believe that community programs are the only answer? And if they take years to work, even if they take years to work, let me know what you think in the comments, because the sounds of Labor Day weekend shootings are still echoing through Chicago. They echo in the homes of grieving families and in the halls of power, where the tragedy has become a political tool for Democrats to signal their opposition to Trump. And what we're seeing is a city at a crossroads. It's tangled mess of real grief, legitimate fear, and cynical politics. And the hard reality for the people of Chicago is that while their leadership protests, the violence continues. And yes, they'll show you data that long-term violent crime has been falling, but the progress is fragile, wiped out by one weekend of horror that proves the city is failing. And the core conflict is simple. Is the answer more force, more troops, a crackdown on the crime and illegal immigration that is fueling the crisis? Or is it more talking points, more excuses, and more patient approach that costs more lives? It seems these politicians hate Trump more than they love America. And they hate him more than they love their own cities, or love their cities, so to say. And as the political battles rage, the question for the people of Chicago is painfully simple. When will it stop? And in a country that is this divided, who has the courage to provide the real answer? When I know family, I'll catch you next one. Peace. I'm out.